Good evening, everyone. My name is Christopher Urbane, representing the ASQ Inspection Division. I want to thank those of you who are called in or still calling in for joining us tonight on tonight's very exciting presentation. The topic is the power of psychological safety. The speaker is Luciana Paulise. I have had the great pleasure of meeting her at the Louisville Inspection Division Conference last year. I want everybody to know today's conference will be recorded and it will be posted on the YouTube page for the Inspection Division at some point, along with a copy of the presentation for those that will be looking forward to viewing our videos afterwards on our YouTube channel. Luciana is an international speaker and consultant. She's an author, and I think she just helped release her second book. She has an MBA, she's an ASQ certified quality engineer, and she's an MIT graduate in the Mastery in Design Thinking coursework that they've had online. With no further ado, I would like to introduce Luciana.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for having me to Fargo. Well, today I'm going to talk about teams and how psychological safety can transform a culture that nurtures effective teams. So let's start. Well, as you may know, teams are not the fundamental unit of organization. When in the past we would strive more to work individually, the need to analyze a great amount of information, quick decision-making, and expertise on different aspects require individuals to come up together in teams to be more effective. Some teams are self-organized, while others still need leaders to help coordinate tasks. So just in case, if there anyone in the audience, someone that is part of a self-organized team, if you are, just say yes on the chat. Let's see if there's someone. Well, self-organized teams are not that common. Most of the teams so far have a leader, but what we're going to review today is we're going to review how psychological safety works for both types of teams. So there are many challenges, of course, to working in teams. It's not an easy task, especially if we have to work remotely. Different people with different profiles, points of view, and knowledge are the fuel that can take a company above and beyond, as diversity is always enriching. A good example of a multidisciplinary team originally comes from the health industry. They have always been working in teams. They have there are a group of healthcare workers who are members of different disciplines, professionals of like maybe psychiatrists, social workers, nurses, surgeons. They all work together to provide a specific service to the patient. They coordinate their services and work together towards a specific set of goals. So this is beneficial, we all know that. But why is it that the other industries have not yet benefit of that? Well, there are some things, there are some problems or challenges, we'll say. The problem is that when we have diversity, we also have different points of view because we have different generations, different skills, different culture. And with all this come different ways of working, which of course is good, but it also has its challenges. It's human nature. We form teams with that people that are more similar to us. It looks like we consume less energy because we don't have to make previous agreements. We all know how to work with these people. So when we deal with different people, we criticize them or we tend not to respect the differences, or for sure at least we are less prone to listen to them. A good example of this are the generations. When we have different generations at work, people with different ages, they have different values, different ways of communicating, and different ways of feeling motivated. Gen Xers, for example, who were born between 1965 and 1979, complain that millennials that are younger are not committed at work. Millennials complain that Gen Xers are not passionate and work too hard. Baby boomers, the generation that was born between 1944 and 1964, want to call the Gen Zs, which are the youngest, on the phone, but the Gen Zs want to reply by sending a picture or sending a video. So this is how different people are in the, we all have to work together. The worst part of these differences is that sometimes we have, and we usually have, we are blind to our biases, and we tend to, as I said before, we tend to favor people that look or behave like us. So there are some statements like, oh, your English is great, or oh, is that your real hair, or, you know, maybe engineers are not creative. I don't know, questions or statements that can make other people feel uncomfortable in very subtle ways. It means that we're not trying to do something wrong, but we just don't notice that this is something that is hurting the other people, or maybe just making them not want to talk about anything. You know, maybe just they won't speak up just because they feel threatened by the things that other people say. So we all do that, no matter ethnicity. It's something that all humans do. So it is vital to reduce these biases through training and coaching the workforce and building a culture that works on two basic things, which is communication skills, to be able to speak up, and respect, which is the ability to listen and value the other's input. So this is where we come to psychological safety. Researchers have been looking at what makes team effective for years. This idea that teams that can trust one another, that allow for questioning, risk-taking, and making mistakes, perform better, that has been growing in popularity. The idea is called psychological safety, and it's been studied in office workers, in hospitals, nurses, and even in astronauts. When you feel psychologically safe, it means that you feel you can take the risk to be yourself. Amy Edmondson, who is the researcher at Harvard that is the expert on psychological safety, says that psychological safety is a shared belief held by the members of the team that the group is a safe place for taking risk. It is a sense of confidence that the team will not embarrass, reject, or punish someone for speaking up. So speaking up could be saying everything, anything. Could be suggesting an idea, maybe criticizing a project, or saying, well, this could be improved this way, maybe coming up with a new product, maybe saying, oh, there was a mistake here. These are all different ways that teams or that individuals in a team can speak up. But if they are not psychologically safe, they won't. So psychological safety describes a team climate characterized by communication and respect, as I said before. That is, there is interpersonal trust and mutual respect in which people are comfortable being themselves and speaking up what they think. Now you may wonder, what do I mean by taking risk? Why would teams want to take risk? Well, I will show you a story. This was part of Amy Edmondson research, and this example shows the lack of psychological safety or not willing to take risk, how it can impact the quality of the service of a company. In this case, this is there were two teams in a hospital, and the goal was trying to figure out which of this team was performing better and why. So one team, team number one, looked, when the researchers were looking at this team, they were looking more organized, more communicative. Employees were frequently talking to each other, sharing meds and documentation, asking questions to each other, and looking happy. While the other team looked more serious, team number two, where employees were barely talking to each other. So the researchers analyzed the rate of mistakes each group was reporting. So the hypothesis was that if the team number one, who looked happier and collaborative, would be making less mistakes, as they seem to be working better together. So this is what they found out. The surprise came because the team with less reported mistakes resulted to be team number two. They decided to go deeper in analysis by interviewing the team members. They were saying, "Whoa, so apparently the team members that don't look happy, that don't collaborate, make less mistakes." Well, that's great. It's not what we expected. So they interviewed the team members, and this is what they found. A nurse in team number one explained, talking about mistakes. Mistakes are serious because of the toxicity of the drugs, so you are never afraid to tell the nurse manager. So basically what she was saying is that whenever she was seeing a mistake or something that was wrong that she could detect, she would immediately talk to the manager. She was not feeling embarrassed or feeling threatened by doing that. But someone in the team number two said that if she was making a mistake, you would get blamed. You would be put on trial. So you don't want to make those mistakes. So what this means is that they analyzed more in depth, and they realized that the team number two were not making less mistakes, but they were reporting less mistakes. And this was all due to psychological safety. So these are one of the things that you don't want from your team. Of course, you don't want your team to make mistakes, but if they do, or if they detect that there's something wrong, it's good that they talk about it and you can correct it. If they don't talk about it because they don't feel safe, they feel threatened that they will be blamed, they will not talk about it. So the quality of one's relationship with one teammate can have a huge impact on performance of the team, on engagement, and also on innovation. And this is also how we can see, talking about innovativeness, Google also did some research on how to improve team effectiveness. They, like every company, have great teams, and teams are not that great. So they say, hey, how can we build more of those teams that are so successful? So they did the research within their own team. The researchers found that what really mattered to those teams that were more effective was less about who was on the team, but more about how the team worked together. So imagine this. It's not important who is on the team. You don't need to have the smartest people on the team. The most important thing is how they work together, how they interacted, so that they all could benefit from one another. They found out that there were 5 things that were important. Was psychological safety, dependability, structure and clarity, meaning and impact. And they discovered that the most important and the one that was driving more success was psychological safety. So psychological safety, of course, might be less efficient, maybe in the short run, but it's more productive over time. And again, not only because of the performance, but Google environment, for example, promoted psychological safety from the very beginning, and that brings them a lot of innovativeness. This is how they found out how to make their engine search work. One of the owners before Google was so well known, they just published on a board like the one you are seeing on the screen, they published the problem they had. One of the engineers that was working with them saw it when they were taking a coffee and met with other teams and other team members and said, hey, let's try to solve this together. So they stayed the whole weekend in Google. Of course, they were feeling safe to do that, just to decide to stay for the night. Google is open 24/7. And they finally, on Monday, discovered what was the problem and posted the solution to the problem on the board. So again, this shows that when employees feel safe to do what they think is right, they they can decide fast, they are more open to participation, they bring more innovation, more productivity, and of course, they are more engaged. They can work more hours, or they can manage the hours depending on whatever is needed. So psychological safety is about allowing others to fail without repercussion. It's about respecting divergent opinions. It's about feeling free to question. It's also about trusting that people are not trying to undermine you. Whenever someone says, well, this is wrong or there's a mistake here, it's nothing against you. It's just about the process or about the problem that we all have to solve. No one to be blamed. Just everyone to focus on the problem to be solved. On the other side, when people try to show authority, speaking louder, assigning tasks arbitrarily, don't want to make mistakes, or are critical of each other, you feel psychological stress. That's not psychological safety. You feel you never feel relaxed at work. You feel like you have to prove yourself all the time. You feel like nobody listens, like everyone wants to be the leader. And you are careful about not making mistakes or not taking risks. Instead of trying to do something new, something different, you are more careful about not risking who you are. Because nobody wants to be impacted negatively. Nobody wants to be seen the wrong way. But it all depends on the culture of the company. If whenever someone makes a mistake, if it seems or something wrong, that cannot be allowed and maybe can make you lose your job, or it just means that, hey, this person realized there's something wrong, we will fix it, and that's it. So it's all about the culture and what everyone understands is right or wrong at work. So talking about the bad things about not having a psychological safe environment, I would like to show the example of Wells Fargo. I don't know if anyone ever heard about this example of what happened with Wells Fargo some years ago. If you have any comment, remember to use the chat to ask questions or to make comments. And if you make a comment, we may read it out loud. And if you have a question, it may go until the end of the presentation. So what happened with Wells Fargo is that the bank executives decided that they wanted to initiate a campaign to open new accounts. They defined a monthly objective to accomplish a company, a corporate objective, of course, and push the objectives to each of the employees. This objective, of course, has not been agreed by the employees or customized for each of them, so they all feel pushed to sell no matter what. So this is what happened. The bank secretly opened more than 2 million bank and credit card accounts that customers may not have authorized. Employees were hiding information to the customers, trying to rush the sale. They were opening accounts for the ones that were not willing to do so. And this was a huge issue for Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo was fined by $185 million for opening all these unauthorized accounts between 2011 and 2015 as a way of bumping up sales figures. So it's not just that. There were they lost much more because they also lost a lot of customers that were not willing to suffer this again. So this story shows this is when you push the employees, it's a recipe for failure, including stretching goals or closing your ears. So really, employees at this time were not feeling safe to push back or to respect the client needs or to say this is not working or the objectives are too high, it cannot be done. They just felt forced to push to meet the objective. So it's great to have goals, but yeah, I'm seeing some comments here, pressure to hit target. Exactly, John, that was the main thing that happened. And you know, this is what happened in Wells Fargo at a corporate level, but this happens all the time in many companies, and not only at the corporate level, but it happens sometimes in teams. Some teams don't do that, some other teams do. I mean, it depends on the leaders. It depends on what the culture is. If this is something that is seen as right or is not seen that way. So what is it that you want for your company? You have to define if this is something that you would allow or not. And again, it's not only about how the employees feel, but you can see that it can also impact how your product is being seen, how your performance goes, and it impacts the image that the customers have about the company. So there are several threading practices. It's not only pushing about hitting targets, but there are other things that are also threatening companies and threatening teams, and they don't feel psychologically safe. Some of them are, for example, when you have annual performance reviews. The employees have feedback sessions only once a year. How do you think they feel? They feel pushed to show results, or they feel, that everything they did throughout the year is going to be shown just in half hour or 1 hour with the supervisor. That's something that creates stress to the employees, and it's not a good stress because it doesn't create something good for the future. In many companies, employees just try to have 1 or 2 big things to show at the annual performance review, while throughout the year, there are many things they don't commit to. Other threatening practices are, for example, rankings. When companies have rankings where some people are, you have the number 1, the number 2, the number 10, and then everyone else below the number 10 is not as important, right? So this comes with the other problem, which is the high potential. Some people are seen like they have all the answers, they are the leaders, and we just have to listen to them. There are some stories about companies that, like for example, Apple, whenever Steve Jobs was in the meetings, he seems to be a high potential, someone that people wouldn't dare to say, oh, he's not right, or I don't agree. So what happens when you do that? When you have someone like that in your team, the rest of the people wouldn't talk when these people is present. And it happens many times when we have meetings with supervisors. Everyone is silent until the supervisor leaves and everyone starts talking, right? So this is something very, very common, but it's a threatening practice, and there's something that we can do to try to avoid this. In the case of Apple, for example, sometimes they were doing meetings and not inviting Steve Jobs until the end of the meeting. This is something that you can play, that of course the high potentials are important. Their opinion is important, but it's also important to see what the other people in the team think. If you don't let them think, they feel like they're not important. Another threatening practice is judging, assuming, blaming people. So whenever someone says something, you judge or you assume instead of asking more questions, or you blame instead of trying to solve the problem. Here there's a comment. So it comes down to trusting that you can speak your mind without fear of retribution, right? Or fear of punishment, an annual review time. Exactly. That's about it. So whenever, imagine, if you're in an annual review, you just have 40 minutes or an hour to say what was right about you. Do you think you will be able to feel open, to say something that you think is wrong? Or no, you would try to say whatever is good for you, and that's it, right? So you are not free to speak your mind. So right now, what we're gonna see are several ways of promoting psychological safety. We're gonna see the different factors that can impact your company so that you can improve psychological safety and avoid this threat. So for psychological safety to emerge between a group, teammates do not necessarily have to be friends. It's not about that. However, they must be socially sensitive and ensure that everyone feels heard. And these are the critical factors to achieve the context. First, to set a structural feature consisting of a clear, compelling team goal, adequate resources, information, and rewards, setting up meetings in a certain way and sessions so that everyone is able to provide the candidate feedback. The culture has to allow for belonging cues also to emerge among team members to improve interactions, such as active listening, eye contact, feedback. We're going to review that later on. And also coaching. The leaders will have to show that they are fallible human beings, that they can make mistakes. It's not only that team members can make mistakes, but also leaders, the high boss, can make mistakes or can say something and someone can say something else, and they all can build something together. So team leaders' behaviors such as coaching have been shown to increase team effectiveness. So now we're going to see more in details of these things. So what is the context? The context, as I said before, it's an environment that makes people feel comfortable to make the right decisions, to ask questions, to provide answers, and to be themselves. I mean, that's why you're hiring someone, because they have a certain expertise, and it's better that you listen to this expertise. And this is something that is major. For example, in Pixar, this is another company where Steve Jobs was kept out of the meeting sometimes because, well, Pixar, if you don't know, they had 17 major box office successes in a row. This is something very, very odd for a company that is in the movie industry. Not even Disney had that success. They had one success, and then for 3 or 4 years they don't have anything else, and they're waiting for the next success. So why did they achieve this? Scott Mullis, the co-founder, and he was the leader for a long time, he worked to create a psychologically safe environment where candor is expected, possible. Critical feedback is important, and especially during these brain trust meetings, which is the meeting that you can see here on this picture. These meetings are meetings where critiquing movies is essential. People say what's wrong about the movie, even small parts, everything they don't like, they talk about it. So every comment is heard. No one can feel hurt by that, can feel, oh, they're talking to me. No, this is what we feel, that's the work. So for next meeting, we have to fix it. So these frequent feedback sessions when they are working on a movie. Everyone needs to be able to talk. Candid feedback, it's essential, and you have to take it positively. Candid feedback, again, is not a gotcha, but it must come from a place of empathy. When you feel like, how can I say it in a way that no one will feel hurt, but I have to talk about it. I have to say what I think is wrong. So yes, this is a way to have candid feedback in face-to-face meetings, but we also have meetings online. You can foster the same communication and transparency while working remotely. What you can do is you can communicate with your staff regularly and consistently at the same time to maintain a routine and ensure a safe space. You can invite all members to turn on the video and maintain eye contact as much as possible. To increase engagement, you can also reduce meetings to 30 minutes or less and invite every single member to speak up. This is crucial. Sometimes in online meetings, what happens is that we don't know what the other person is doing on the other side. So if you cannot have everyone on the video, at least you have to make them talk. And if you can have a list and tick when everyone is talking, well, do that. But make sure that everyone provides an opinion. If they don't provide an opinion, either they are not feeling safe or they shouldn't be in that meeting. you can use all the tools possible to communicate. The most common are Zoom, Team, Google Meet, WebEx, but you can also use other ways. Whatever you have to communicate, it's good. You can also have many companies organize, for example, cooking nights, birthday celebrations, baby showers, whatever. But these are all ways to communicate and show people not only your professional way, but also your personal, so that you feel and everyone feels more open to share. Another way to have psychological or promote psychological safety is through workspace layouts. Many companies, as you can see here, Google or the one on the in Vegas, in Staples, this is their office, and I'm here. I'm visiting their office in Vegas in this picture, and they have a ball pit. Yes, because they want employees to feel safe, to feel comfortable. If you see on the top right picture, look what it looks like. Anybody has any idea where is that? Looks like a vacation center, huh? Well, that's actually more about Google. It's another office in Google, and what they do is they just try to have offices with restaurants, with night places, so that people feel comfortable to talk to each other. Remember that an important part of psychological safety is communication. Make people feel safe to open up to others and interact with others. Another way that you can show psychological safety is providing incentives. So, you know, you can say, well, money is the prime motivator, right? Show me the money, like Tom Cruise would do in this presentation. But yes, some are in the chat are saying, no, it's not the prime motivator. Exactly, it's not. So once you have the money you need to be able to, you know, have your safety nets, to have your food, your family safe, money is not a prime motivator. So companies need to find different ways to motivate the employees, not only raising the salary or not only providing bonuses. So these ways can be individual incentives, could be team incentives, or can be peer-to-peer rewards. Whatever option you choose is what is going to impact your culture. In the case of the company Zappos that I mentioned before, that they had the ball pit in Vegas, they use what they call dollars. They have dollars, but for buying like Zappos material, and they use it to build employee engagement and build the relationship in the company. They use this internal coin as the way to recognize a co-worker. So they use peer rewards. It's the one of the most fair tools to reward your employees and show them that they can interact with each other, and you don't need a leader to tell you what's right and what's wrong. Employees know what's right, and they feel much better, and they feel it's much fair when someone that you know, a coworker, is giving you these dollars because you did something right. So again, you have to define what is the type of reward you want. If you want to increase psychological safety, if you have peer-to-peer rewards, it's better. If you have team incentives, yes, of course, that's much better than individual incentives. But again, it will be up to a leader to decide. So peer-to-peer rewards are one of the most effective. And yeah, what can you do when you are online? Well, there are many companies that also define different ways of rewarding their employees or sharing peer-to-peer reviews, even when they are working online. This is an example of the company Globant that created the Start Me Up tool, which is an operating system that can recreate casual encounters with the employees, so that instead of having, you know, these comfortable Vacational places like in Google, well, even being online, you can meet different people randomly, and you can also reward employees. You can send them stars. That's why the app is called Star Me Up. Then you can send them stars when you see something is right or they are doing something right. And again, this is all peer-to-peer and fully online. So different ways that you can achieve this. Another way that you can use to build your culture or the culture that you want is training. In this case, I'm showing a picture of Virgin Australia, which are really working hard to break the taboo of feeling depressed, for example, right? So in the aerospace industry, if you say that you're not feeling well or that you're depressed, they remove you immediately from work. So people don't report it. So what this company, Virgin, is trying to do, they're trying to say it's okay. That's why they're sharing these cupcakes saying, are you okay? Yes, because they're trying to make people talk. If they don't feel fine, if they're having a problem, they are providing them mental health training to all frontline teams and introducing e-counseling services so that everyone feels open to talk. Here's another comment. Employers should explore more ways to motivate their team. Everyone expects appreciation and respect no matter what level they are working. Exactly, that is correct, Nisha. Employers have different ways of motivating employees. So if you choose not to motivate them, or you choose to motivate them just with money, or you choose to motivate them through teamwork, through team events, through peer-to-peer reviews, it's different. You are sending a message to everyone, and that's how you're building your culture. So you have to decide, again, what kind of culture you want to be. But it depends on all these things that we're talking about in the context. But context is not the only thing. We talked about 3 aspects. The second aspect is belonging cues. What is the belonging cue? Belonging cues is enhancing the communication through promoting trust and respect through different ways. You know that communication is not just what you say. There are many ways that you can say things. 60% of the communication is actually non-verbal. You say it through different ways, through your body, for example, through your expressions. Even when you're writing, you use bold or you use italic. That means that you're trying to say something else on top of what you're actually saying. And some of the belonging cues are, for example, active listening, eye contact, frequent interactions, vulnerability, continuous feedback, cohesion during losses, asking for help, admitting errors, seeking feedback. These are all types of behavior that actually pose a threat to someone. You know, people feel often reluctant to disclose errors or to have eye contact with someone, or feel vulnerable to say, hey, I'm not feeling right today, or having this problem, or I feel sad about this, or I feel, well, actually now with all that's going on, with all these crises that we have throughout the year, if you don't make your employees tell you what's wrong at home, or what are the fears that they have, well, you're losing a good connection with the employee. But the reason why people is reluctant to do so is, again, because of psychological safety. Maybe it's not practiced at work. Maybe the team leader always feel like they are the heroes and they are always right. So team members don't feel fine to open up themselves. So the culture has to promote these belonging cues and let employees know what it is okay and what it is not okay to do. A way to show what is okay is usually through example or imitation. An experiment called the Bad Apple experiment showed how only one person could impact the behavior of the entire team, for good or for bad. You could call it the bad or the good apple. So if the person was I don't know, whenever he was receiving an activity, he was complaining, or he was like yawning, or he was trying to go to sleep, or going to the restroom and not listening to each other. Like through time, people started to behave like that until you get a good apple, someone that was totally the opposite. So whenever someone was doing something wrong, the other person was saying, well, but let's do it anyway, or oh, yes, it's boring, but yeah, I mean, I find a way to do it myself. Well, you know, why don't we do this, or why don't we do that? So whenever you have this good apple, helps everyone to imitate, to follow that example. So a way that companies can build a good or the bad apple is through coaching, which is the third critical factor to drive this team success. Coaching can be done by external coaches or by leaders that are trained to do so. If the team has a leader, the person has a critical role in creating a psychologically safe work environment. If the leader is supportive, coaching-oriented, and has non-defensive responses to questions and challenges, members are likely to conclude that the team is a safe environment. But in contrast, if the team leader acts in an authoritarian way or punitive way, team members really may be reluctant to engage. Let's say you are in a meeting, the team member or the leader asks a question, and someone says, well, this is what I think, and they say, no, that's wrong. You're not correct. Next. How would you feel? Imagine you in a situation. I think that we all suffer that sometimes, someday. In some teams, so we still suffer it every day. And that's not good. You don't feel like empowered to answer the question the next time. You have to be strong to do that. So what you have to build is the culture where everyone can feel strong to do those sort of things. So as per Amy Amundsen, the best tactic for establishing psychological safety is demonstration by a team leader. In Edmonton's hospital studies that I talked about before, the teams with the highest levels of psychological safety were also the ones with leaders most likely to model listening and social sensibility. Again, some of the belonging cues that we mentioned before. So everyone needs to feel heard and accepted, and whatever made each person special has to be respected. But especially, this has to be done by the team leader. The team leaders are the ones that model these behaviors. Some companies, for example, Toyota, design what they call the unknown court. Most people that study Lean know about this. I went to the Toyota plant in San Antonio, and I saw how it works, and it's truly nice. Whenever you have a problem, you just get the unknown cord. There's a music that sounds, and someone comes to help you. That means that they are expecting you to pull the cord when using something that is not just quite right, and talk about it and fix it. So it's important for you, like if not all the leaders in your team are doing that, maybe there's something that needs to be done on the corporate level. Like in this case of Toyota, they do this for all the companies, for all the manufacturing centers. So to wrap up, I want to show, well, this is me, and I want to show you an example, because you may say, well, all these things that you're mentioning are in Google, in Toyota, all these big companies, Apple, whatever, but how this applies to me, how it applies to a small company, a small business, or to a different company that is like a regular company. So I'm going to tell you my experience in a particular client that I had. There was a 15 days turnaround, and they had, during those days, those are the days that they are trying to solve or fix all the machines in the plant that they cannot stop throughout the year. They have, like most companies, when they have turnarounds, they have double of the employees working there. 50% of them, of course, are contractors, people that come to the company just for 15 days to fix that. In this case, 40% of them were Hispanic, and for some reason, their statistics showed that they suffer most of the accidents. So they wanted me to help them reduce the accident. So I said, well, we have to work on the culture. Right, but I had only 15 days. And I was not being paid, or I was not going to be paid to train them before. So I just had those 15 days to train them. So what I did is not work is I worked on physical safety, of course, but I also work on psychological safety. My role was to ensure that everyone was meeting the safety standards, especially the Hispanics, because I speak Spanish. The reasons why they were more prone to accidents was that they were less prone to disclose issues. It was not only like a language problem, but it was a cultural problem. They didn't want to show there was something wrong. They didn't feel comfortable speaking up, especially to someone that was speaking in English. So it was just part of the culture. But if they didn't understand a rule, they would still try to work around it instead of asking how to do it. They wouldn't report a coworker that was not in good condition to work. So what I did during all these 15 days was stay constantly for them, getting to know them, asking what they needed, translating the rules for some that they were not very well at speaking in Spanish, making sure they were hydrated. So trying to solve all their needs, trying to find all the problems that they had. That helped me, or they helped them to trust me. So they were, I was able to listen to their personal problems. So they were more open to tell me what was wrong when there was a tool that was not working, or where there was someone that was not, maybe was drunk or was drugged or was having other issues, things that they would never talk about. They were able to talk about them with me. Knowing all this information, instead of punishing them, what I was doing is using this information to prevent problems, to prevent accidents in the future, to find more potential hazards and report them, to identify inadequate tools, and aid everyone to the same objective. So everyone in the company was feeling open to speak up, to say what was wrong. No matter the language they were speaking, if they were English, it was Spanish, they were all in the same level. They were all feeling trusted to speak up, and they knew, that's what happened, is that they were not having any threats. Nothing was threatening their work because they were reporting things. So this showed that psychological safety can work in any company, can be worked in a small amount of time. All you need is to improve communication and improve the interaction with everyone involved. And through time, of course, if this can be done in 15 days, imagine what you can do in a company when you're seeing people every day for many years. So sometimes you may need someone external to help you change the culture, but other times what you need is leaders to bring this cultural change to. But what you need is someone to see things with a different lens. So it's not just about saying team leaders, okay, from now on you respect everyone, but you need to train them to see with a different lens. That's not easy. So to summarize, some ideas to create a virtual safe space are facilitate continuous feedback no matter the amount of people in your group. Try to make them talk to you constantly. Again, yearly reviews are not enough. You just maybe monthly are not enough. It depends on each person, have different needs. So you have to make sure, and even if you're working remotely, if you can have at least one communication per week to see how everything is doing. It doesn't have to be a long meeting, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 15, but you have to promote the continuous feedback. Some companies use gratitude sharing, that people say what they feel thankful about. Some people or some companies do virtual happy hours to put people together. The same thinking that Google has, if you have people meeting informally or in a cafe or something, you make people get to know each other, and maybe you can form teams out of the normal team you would have, because instead of just meeting with the people that you regularly meet, you can meet from people outside of your circle and come up with new ideas. Other ways are meditation, mindfulness, equality groups, so that you can put people together that have the same culture or the same experience or the same age or the same sex. Also, you can open channels to discuss topics. There are many ways that you can open channels online. Like, for example, many companies are using Slack. So you just say, okay, let's talk about this topic, innovation, and everyone that wants to talk about innovation can go into that topic, and you don't judge them. Everyone just choose. And of course, promote individual coaching sessions so that you can listen to the different needs of every individual. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Here, do you have any questions at all? This is your time to speak up. Feel safe to ask whatever question you have. If you want also, you can email me or go to my website or to my social media. This is the book that I recently launched, my second book, 5S Your Life. So any questions at all right now?
Thank you, Luciana. We really appreciate you speaking for us. What I'd like to do is I'd like to give the folks in the audience a minute or two in case they have any questions. I would really like to ask my first question for you. How did you come apart to develop this topic? Was there a reason, or was there an experience in your life or in your career that made you want to focus on this topic specifically?
Yes, I've suffered this many times. So I thought it was just me, or it was not very common, but then I found out that, well, for example, I did a training on psychological safety for the city of Houston. So a lot of companies are now worrying about this. But really, as you ask, when I was working for a company before, now I'm self-employed, but before I was working for companies, for big companies. And I always found this problem because I'm the type of person that speaks a lot, or not about anything, but I always want to speak up my opinion, I want to say what I think. And I was the one that, I don't care if you're the president of the company. If I can add something to what you're saying respectfully, I'm going to say it. And in many companies, this is not right. So people look at you like, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? Or why are you bringing this idea? In many cases, I was even the continuous improvement expert. I'm providing ideas for improvement. And, sometimes, oh, no, this is improving too much, or this is changing too much. No, we'd better save it for later, or, things like that. And I didn't feel comfortable about that. So I wanted to make sure that companies and especially employees wouldn't feel that way anymore. And this is happening a lot. This is very common. Many companies are having this problem. Many employees are feeling disengaged, are not able to provide their ideas. And this is so bad. I feel like companies could save so much or could earn so much more if they were able to listen to the employees. And of course, they wouldn't spend so much, trying to look for new employees because employees wouldn't leave the company so fast. Any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for answering that. Another one, somebody chatted in. What would you recommend as the #1 key to employee engagement?
Well, what I would say is that for employee engagement, psychological safety is important. It's one of the #1s. But I would say more specifically, listen to the employee. Whenever the employee feels like they can collaborate or say what they are thinking or provide their expertise is when they feel more engaged. Whenever you're not making them participate, you're not listening to them, is when they get disengaged. And the statistics are so bad because most of the companies in the U.S., but also in other parts of the world, 85% of the employees are disengaged. So this means they are going to work, but they don't provide ideas for improvement. They just do the minimum to survive, to receive their paycheck, and they do anything else. And really, what I have found out, and that's the reason why I was so interested in this, is that it's not because of them. Maybe only 5% of the employees is really because of them, because they don't want to do that. But usually it's because their culture is not right. If you have these employees going to another company where they can be open, where they can say what they think, when they are appreciated, of course they will be engaged.
Excellent, great answer. I don't see any other questions coming into the chat box right now. I know you have your link to your website. I know you're doing quite a lot of work on your website. You have some great posts for your blog over there. There is a link to get in touch with Luciana here. We appreciate everybody that came out for this presentation tonight. It is a holiday tomorrow, so we want to thank all the veterans who have served the country out there as well. So everybody take care. Thank you, Luciana, again for this amazing presentation. I'll let you know.
Thank you, Chris. I also wanted to share something else before you move on.
Sure.
I offer to everyone that is in this course. I'm doing on December the 1st an online webinar that has a cost, but for everyone that it's part of this webinar, if they want to have a free access to this webinar, they can send me an email, and I will give them the code and the link to access to this webinar, so that they can learn more about leading and working remotely. So for the ones that are veterans, they can take this as a gift from me, but it's open for everyone else too. So.
That's great. That sounds like an amazing opportunity.
Yes, yes. You can enjoy tomorrow if you have the day off.
All right. Well, with that being said, I want to thank everybody once again for coming out to the webinar. I will end the recording now. If there's any other questions, you can reach out to Luciana directly. Her email is there at the bottom of the slide if there's any other questions. Thank you all, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.